All right, everybody. This is just a warning for this episode. Having a very good friend of mine on the podcast, somebody who I met while doing a 7-day bike ride across New York State. I just reconnected with him again. After, this is the second year in a row that he did this full bike ride called the Empire State Ride. His name is Michael Sims. He's a realtor out in the Long Island market. He is just full of energy, motivation, and just quite the unique individual. But just wanted to give you guys a heads up that there is some language on this podcast. I'm going to bleep most of it out. But if it's something that you're offended by, probably not a good podcast for you to listen to, or if, maybe you have kids in the car or something with you. But I just wanted to give you the heads up on that. But just finished the call with Mike and now recording this intro for this podcast. And I probably welled up 2-3 times listening to him talking about the experiences from this trip that we went on. And we try and tie back everything into what you're trying to achieve out of life, what you're trying to go for, where do you get your motivation from, what gets you out of bed in the morning, and why you're doing this. And we try to tie it back to you as a landlord or a property manager who, sometimes you can kind of feel like you're getting swallowed up by the daily grind of life. Mike is the antidote for that. So without further ado, let's get into the episode.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah.
Welcome to the Rent Prep for Landlords podcast. And now your hosts, Stephen White and Eric Worrell.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Rent Prep for Landlords. So I say this a lot that I'm really excited for the guests that we have on the episode. And I'm always excited to talk to new people and get to hear their stories and their experiences and kind of gain some insight and wisdom from them. But I'm super excited today. I have the one and only Michael Sims. You probably don't know who he is, but you will by the end of this podcast episode. Mike, I want to say thank you for joining me here on the podcast today. How you doing?
Hi, Eric. I'm great, and thanks for the invitation. I appreciate it.
No problem. So a little bit of backstory, how I know Michael and have come to know Michael. So Michael is one of the top performing real estate agents on the market for Long Island. And Mike, how long have you been a real estate agent for in your area?
Yeah, I'm in the business 16 years.
Okay. And you're a top 1% earner. And I didn't know who Mike was, like what, probably 13 months ago. Is that right?
Yes, that's exactly right, as a matter of fact.
So it's come up a couple times on our podcast before where I've talked about this bike ride that I've done. It's called the Empire State Ride. And it's an amazing, amazing charity event that basically what happens is you get on a bicycle in New York City. 7 days later, 546 miles or so later, you end up in Niagara Falls. And all of the funds and proceeds raised go to cancer research at a cancer hospital called Roswell Park. So Roswell Park is something that I've been involved with for a few years now. It's very close to my wife's heart. She kind of sucked me in and I've kind of gotten involved, and they started doing this Empire State Ride. And I was like, you know what, let's do it. I've never ridden a bike really. And I was like, let's jump in and figure this thing out. And I know, Mike, I've told you this story a few times. We always laugh, but I'm heading across on the ferry. I've never seen New York City from this angle before. We started at Staten Island, and I'm heading across on the ferry. You got the Statue of Liberty on your left. Manhattan's kind of coming into view slowly. And there's this gentleman in front of me talking to his friend, and he is just going nuts. He is talking about it's just the most motivating speech I'm listening to. And it sounds like his friend's like, yeah, I've heard Mike, talk about this a million times before. And you're just talking about getting up on your bike, just doing things, just having attitude and just like attacking life. And you're just like, shut up and do it. And just stop letting life just like come to you. And you just, it's kind of like somebody who really attacks life. And I was like, who the heck is this guy? Like, he's nuts. And it turns out I was right.
Thank you. That's awfully sweet of you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's good, right, wrong, or indifferent. It has been my attitude for a long time, and it's one of two things. I'm both barrels. My kids tell me I'm like a pit bull on a pork chop, and it's one of two things. Either you like me, or you can't stand me, and I'm okay with either one because of my attitude. Right, wrong, or indifferent. It's the way I'm wired, Eric. It's just the way I've lived my life. I just turned 56 years of age, and I don't plan on dialing it back anytime soon.
And I feel like you told me this before in a previous conversation we've had. You said that your mom is known from the day you were born. You're like, yeah, you're nuts. You're a little bit different, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Oh
just
yeah,
like,
I have an older brother and older sister, and she would describe us to other people, and she'd get to me, the youngest of three, and she would say, "We have no idea where Mike came from because he's out there."
yeah, yeah.
And it's at least I say to mom, at least I'm consistent.
There's
you know,
there's certain people that you meet where you meet them and they're a little bit different, and you don't want to tell them that though, even though you like them for that reason. And then
yeah,
there's
I'm okay
people-
with that. Yeah,
yeah,
that's fine.
you meet Michael Sims, and did you go by Mike or Michael? I'm going back and forth.
Yeah, listen, I have been called so many things.
Yeah.
Mike or Michael is one of the cleaner things I've ever been called, so I'm fine with either one.
So we were like chatting on Facebook text earlier, and I'm like, yeah, I want to introduce our audience to this psycho that's from Long Island. And you're like, well, I don't know if I call him a psycho, but I'm like, he's not going to care. Mike's not going to care.
No,
So
nope. Take it as a compliment.
if our audience is still listening at this point, the reason I wanted to have you on today is there is some crossover in what you do. So you work in real estate. You're a top 1% earner in the Long Island market, which is super impressive because that's, I don't know.
Thank you.
Do you know what level, how big is the market in Long Island compared, as far as nationally? Do you know?
If I had to guess, I believe there are roughly 20,000 licensees on the island.
Oh, wow.
If memory serves. Well, look at statistically, and I appreciate the vote of confidence, but I had spoken to one of the principals of the company I work for. If you look at 100%, the bottom 40, Eric, didn't do a single deal in 2017.
That probably rings true, too, across the
It's across the National Association of Realtors, yeah. The bottom 40 didn't do a single deal. The 20 on top of them did one deal, and we call them the dead relative realtors.
Yep.
They're the ones where grandma takes a dirt nap and Junior gets a listing.
Mm-hmm.
And the family still interviewed 4 other people before they felt obligatory to give it to Junior because obviously it was his grandmother that died. And then you have the 20% on top that are basically running, for all intents and purposes, running the market. And that across the board, I think the National Association of Realtors, the average number of deals per year per agent is 3.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's frightening.
That's factoring in a lot. When you factor in a lot of zeros, that number can be pretty low pretty quick.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, the bottom, not even 40, the bottom 40% didn't do a single deal.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody had asked me at one time, how do you feel about this? I said, I love that for a myriad of reasons. A, it's infinitely less competition.
Mm-hmm.
So that just widened my path to success. The second thing is when I do get them on the phone, when I do get into a deal with them, and I don't mean to sound arrogant, the beauty of it is because they are new and or inexperienced, I can somewhat control both sides, not to take advantage, not by any means. I'm not looking to do that, but I can control it with respect to, I can guide them how I need something to get done, and I can control both sides to the closing table to make sure that everything goes according to plan.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they're very happy to get the guidance and the instruction. Hey, listen, in this instance, we need to do A, B, C, and D. And by the grace of God, they do it. And it makes my life that much easier. So somebody asks me, how do you feel about, I'm fine with it. And I think that's across the board in any industry.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be the 80-20 rule. It's more like 95-5.
Yeah.
5% are controlling 95% of the market. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. And that's part of the reason I wanted to have you on today is that our audience is mostly landlords and property managers. So they're people who,
God bless them.
Yeah. And they're building these rental portfolios. And I know we've talked about rentals, especially in your market, and we'll touch on that in a little bit. But these are people that a lot of times are doing this as a side hustle. So they got their full-time job, and then on the side, they're buying real estate. Maybe they're fixing it up themselves. Maybe they have a team that they work with that they're building this. But I would say that hustle and motivation are 2 things that these people need to have in spades to be able to accomplish their dreams and what they've set out to do. And that's because, it's not easy to do this stuff on the side if you have a full-time job. So the reason I wanted to have you on was twofold. So you're in a related niche in the fact that you're a real estate agent and you understand the markets and what's going on. And you can give us some insights on that. But also you have that hustle in your own business where you're a top 1% earner in a very competitive market in Long Island. And I mean, what's the average house sale going for in your market, if you don't mind me asking? I don't know why you'd mind me asking. I can Google it.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't mind you asking at all. Long Island is kind of interesting with respect to the North Shore is very affluent.
Okay.
Very affluent.
Is that where you hear like Hamptons and stuff like that? Is that North Shore?
Hamptons is South Shore and further east of where I am. If you just look at we'll kind of bring in it a little bit, if you will.
Okay.
If you just look at Nassau County, all right, Nassau County, the North Shore, very, very affluent. Oleg Cassini's house just came on the market. I believe it hit the market at 36 million.
Mm-hmm.
You could travel, no exaggeration, less than a half an hour and be in a neighborhood where houses are going for 250 grand.
Okay.
So there's a big span between the two.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot where we were going with that, and I apologize.
Well, what's the average house?
Oh, the average price. The average price, you're right around between $500,000 and $600,000.
Okay, gotcha. And then, so with those average prices, I mean, because in the Buffalo market where I'm at, like a $500,000 home is like, that's somebody who's very affluent. So your average prices are like my neighbor who lives.
Are your high end?
Yeah, he has a very nice house, 3,500 square feet, and very nice property, business owner, and that house was like $500,000. So you can get a really nice house in my area for $200,000.
Okay.
So kind of.
I sold a house on a 60 by 100 property, 4-bedroom, 2-bath, and it went for 510.
Wow. When you say 60 by 100, so 60-foot frontage, and then
100 deep.
Wow, it's a post.
Yeah. And the guy was, I forgot I think his payment was right around $4,000 a month, and said at the closing table, "Wow, I feel like I got such a deal. I can't believe I'm only paying $4,000 a month to own this house."
Yeah, that's crazy.
I'm like, dude, put down the crack pipe. You're out of your mind. Because that house, I mean, you bought it, but in my humble opinion, that house is not worth 510. But you know what? There's an ass for every seat, and I found one here.
Yeah. So you were the seller on that property, or you were I
was the listing agent on it. Yeah.
Gotcha. That's crazy.
Primarily right now, because it's been a seller's market, and that's based on absorption rate. I think 80% of my business is the list side. 20% is the sale side, and 20% is usually past clients that are referring me business, or I'm dealing with the purchaser and the seller on a particular transaction.
Okay. Walk me through, like, how many times are you doing, and maybe you don't touch this at all. Do you touch any properties that are rental properties, or are you mostly selling to people that are looking for their family home?
No, looking for the family home.
Yeah. And
I typically do not do rentals.
And then why don't we walk down that road of why you don't do rentals and why you don't touch that in your market? Because I know you were saying that in your market, it's a really tough place for renters, right? Or for landlords.
Very difficult for renters. It particularly difficult for landlords. It is believed, I don't know if it's been proven, but at least perception, Eric, is that the fastest way to get sued in real estate is to represent either a tenant or landlord in a rental. Mm-hmm. You put in probably
as a real estate
arguably agent. Right. You probably put in arguably as much time going through the whole process for a fraction of what the cost would be or the profit would be on doing a listing or a sale.
Mm-hmm. There are some real estate agents that will represent the landlords, and what they'll do is they'll help place a tenant in that property. And you're saying from your perspective, it's a lot of time put in for not a great amount of money earned, but also there's a much more higher chance that you're going to get sued in the process as opposed to just doing a real estate transaction.
Absolutely.
Yep. And that is something that I would find consistent as well. And that's why we're always consistently preaching at RentPrep to make sure you're doing things consistently and you're aware of discrimination laws and how all that works, because it is very easy to get wrapped up into some discrimination lawsuit if you're not following the proper procedures. So that is why you focus mainly on real estate. So
yeah.
What I'm interested in, and I was kind of touching on this earlier, is our audience. These are people who are doing this as a side hustle. They're trying to build up, assets for themselves in real estate, and it's tough because you lose that motivation, right? You get into it, you're all amped up day one, and then all of a sudden it's 4 years later, and you're just like, I don't know about this, like I don't know if I got the energy, the hustle to do this. So to do what you're doing, I'm sure it's not as hard today to do what you're doing as it was years ago, because you've built up the client list. And like you're saying, you're getting referrals now or past clients to sell. But where do you get your energy from? I mean, you're one of the craziest people I've met as far as when it comes to energy. I mean, to get people some bids.
I take that as a compliment. It's just, I hate to say wired because it indicates that I'm using, controlled substance, and I'm not. Typically run on a lot of coffee and a fair amount of adrenaline. It's really the way I'm wired. It's just the way I'm built. Like people ask me, how do you not all the time are you always up and rolling, but more often than not, it's just the way I am, good, bad, or indifferent. I don't know. I just wanted to touch on something, and this is for your audience. And I'm not, Eric, you know me as both barrels, and I don't pull punches. If I think you're a jackass, I'm going to tell you, hey, bud, you're a jackass.
Mm-hmm.
With respect to the people that you're saying are doing this side business as far as building property, I applaud you. You've got to have a brass pair and certainly upwardly mobile mentally to withstand the crap, pardon my French, the bullshit that you are consistently dealing with jackass tenants. We call them professional tenants on the island.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing this, I applaud you. You've already set yourself far and above most people because you have the audacity, the guts, and the willingness to look outside the box to make life better for yourself. And I applaud you. And you're doing it, in my opinion, in a very difficult arena.
What I want to focus on is not only that, but also the intense Mike that comes out, and the person I met on this cycling event, Empire State Ride. So one of the things that I found super impressive about you is, you're on your third day, 80, 90 miles of cycling. And
91. It was great.
Yeah. The last year when I did it with you, I did the full year. And I think it was like maybe day 3 or 4. I can't remember the name of the campsite. It was the one where we had to kind of like cross over like a major highway to kind of get over to it. And you're sitting out front, and this is after you did 90 miles an hour or 90 miles, and you're, at this point you're 55 years old, and I'm just gassed, and I'm 31 last year, and I'm like just, inching over the finish line that day, and you're already there, and you're clapping super loud, giving everybody a high five, just ramped up. I'm like, damn, this guy's got some energy for somebody that just did 90 miles. So when you get somebody that's like, doesn't have that energy, and I know you say it's kind of like hardwired into you, but like, let's say somebody's starting to question themselves, or they're like, you know what, I don't know if I got it anymore to do this. I mean, what do you tell people? Like if somebody says, hey, Mike, like I need some energy, give me some motivation. And what do you tell that person?
I would ask for initially, what was their reason for doing it?
Yeah.
Do you remember, I don't know if I'm allowed to mention names on you, Stephanie Ladowick.
Yeah.
Remember Stephanie?
Yeah.
She rode last year for her grandmother, whom she referred to as TT. That was, I guess, her nickname when she was very little. She lost her to brain cancer. She rode days 2 and 3 this year. You remember day 3 was that incline up Frosty Acres.
Mm-hmm.
I had gotten done. I think I was the 6th rider in that day.
Yep.
So, and I'm not, and please, it's answering your question. I'm not patting myself on the back. Grabbed a shower, grabbed a cold one. And then I was about midway through that last incline, which is a very steep grade.
Mm-hmm.
And I see Stephanie coming up, and she's sucking wind. And it's after, again, a 91-mile day. I walked down the hill. Now I know her motivation. And I said to her, as I'm walking alongside her, and the sweat is pouring out of this woman like there's a garden hose on top of her head. She is sucking wind because it is taxing. It is taxing you aerobically. And I'm yelling in her ear. And I said, TT is at the top of the hill. Go tell her you love her. And Eric, when I tell you, I might as well have just plugged her in. She got out of the saddle and accelerated at the end of 91, accelerated up the hill. She sent me a text message the day after when she got home. And she said, what you had said to me was what I needed to get over there. And I said, I know. That's why I did it. So you go back to the motivation. I have such a passion for cancer research because I lost my father to the disease 44 days before my sister got married and 2.5 months before my son was born.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a great love for human beings, and I have a great distaste and hate for cancer. The motivation, it's just you kind of tap into what is already there, and I know it's already there. Yeah. And there are ways of bringing it out. Sometimes I'll get in somebody's face and I'll yell positive things at them. And you cannot ignore me. I'm not going away. I'm not quiet. I'm not unassuming. And I am not going away. And I will get you to the point where somebody lit a fire under your ass, and I'm going to get you to go. I'm going to get you to do this. And this one poor soul, Carl, older gentleman, again, this past week, coming up the hill, and he's walking the bike. and at the top of my lungs, get on the fucking bike and finish this damn ride. And he looked up at me and was like, oh, it's Mike.
Carl's out from your way, right?
Carl, where is he from? No, he is. I'm not sure where he's from.
So this is somebody you've known for like 3 days.
Yeah, I've known him for 3 days.
Yeah. And you're yelling
but
at
I yelled.
him. Yep.
Oh, yeah, at the top of my lungs. And thankfully, he took it in the way I meant it. You have it within you. You just have to find it. It's there already. The problem is people don't look for it. And I was howling at him, get on that fucking bike and finish this damn ride. He stopped, put his leg over the bicycle and rode up the hill. And he said to me later on, thank you. I said, you're welcome. It was there. You just didn't find it.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks at me and goes, I think you helped me find it. I said, you're damn right I did.
Yeah.
And he was grateful for it. And the thing is, you walk away with that sense of accomplishment. You didn't lose that fight. You won that fight.
A few things to unpack here. First of all, I started welling up as you're describing the story with Stephanie. And I know Stephanie from doing the ride last year. And like,
yeah, she's a doll.
Oh,
she really is.
And then the next thing is you have a same exact almost kind of situation where somebody's struggling to go up that hill, maybe a little bit different because he's on the bike, but you take a completely different approach with that person. So that person, you yell at them. So what I'm gathering from that is you have a very good innate ability to understand the coaching that somebody would need and what needs to be said to get them to that next level, to get to dig deep is what I'm gathering from those two situations, because they're very different the way you approach them. So I think that's just some innate ability that you have probably from years of just being around people and dealing with people and understanding what makes them tick. But the takeaway for our audience, I think, is really like understanding your why. And that's not a new concept, right? I mean, that's something.
No, not at all. Not at all.
But,
and one of the things that I've written in some of my motivational books is if the motivation is strong enough, the task at hand is easy. And then to further what you're saying, I think there are three things here. I can either put my arm around somebody and talk them through a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I can either get in their face and yell positive things at them, never put them down, but yell at them to find what's in there. And some people just need a high five in the head with a chair, and I'm fine with one of the three.
How do you,
in Stephanie's case, what?
Well, how do you decipher? So let's say somebody's got somebody else in their life that they're thinking needs motivation or needs a kick in the ass or whatever. I mean, do you have like a certain, does it come to you naturally? Is there something that you kind of break down when you're thinking of like, how can I help this person? Do they need a high five? Do they need a kick in the ass? Like, what is it? How does that come to you?
I think it's basically you have to kind of look at them and get a feel for where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Get a feel for what's the one switch that I can push that'll completely in literally in a split second turn where they are into where they need to be.
Yeah.
With Stephanie, it was easy. I knew Stephanie had mentioned her grandmother in the past, and I knew that was her motivation. And I said to myself as I'm walking, down the hill to her, watch this. I'm going to light a fire under this girl because it's already there. Nobody lit the match.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, TT's at the top of the hill. Go tell her you love her. And let me tell you something. The eyes went wide. The teeth got clenched. She got up out of the saddle after 91 miles. And you remember that incline. Yeah. She accelerated up that hill. And I knew it. I was like, I know what's going to get her. I know how to plug her in. And game on, man. She was like a woman possessed. She could have put another 140 miles on that bike in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
With Carl, he was an older gentleman, and I knew. I said to him later on, the pain of not finishing in the way you needed to finish would have lasted a lot longer than the pain you were experiencing coming up that hill. And it's a tougher thing to spend an entire year knowing you didn't finish that task at hand. That's not something you want to live with. I don't care if they take the handlebars out of your dead hands.
Yeah.
I don't care if you leave it all, but you've got to put everything out on the table. You leave nothing on the field. You go for broke. Come hell or high water, this shit's getting done. Like it or not, it might get ugly, but it's going to get done.
Where were you last year?
And I guarantee you, he walked away. Yeah, he walked away that day saying, I'm in pain, but I finished. I didn't lose the fight.
Yeah.
I did not lose that fight.
Well,
there's a lot to be said for that.
I'm willing to admit that out of the 546 miles from last year's ride, I did about 530 of them because I did not finish that day. I did not finish
you
that
not?
day. I got to the last rest stop that day. As you recall, it was about 91 miles and probably about 91 degrees out. Not making
It was
excuses,
mid
but
90s. Yep.
my stomach got into a knot to the point that I could not take in hydration anymore. I just
Wow.
like
Okay.
it was like I could not absorb food, and I sat there. But I completely identify with what you're saying, because when I look back, I'm like, damn, I did 530 of the 546 miles, and I wonder, I'm like, if there was just something that I could have done to finish that day. And it's like, I wouldn't say it haunts me, it's not like something like that, but it's something that, not a week's gone by since that ride that I'm like, damn, I wish I just finished that day somehow, some way. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering if it's something that, my why could have been more established of why I was doing the ride. And I knew why I was doing it. For me, it's my grandmother. It's my wife's birth father, who died when she was very young as well. And it's being able to tap into that motivation. So, and this is exactly why I wanted to have you on the podcast, because I knew the conversation would just go in a direction and we'd kind of figure it out as we got there.
Yeah.
And when people are listening, it's like, what's your motivation, right? And what was that line you said again? If you understand your motivation,
If your motivation is strong enough, the task at hand is easy.
no.
See, now let me ask you a question. Put
Sure.
yourself in this position and be honest with me.
Yeah.
All right. There's a middle-aged man, meaning me, some psychotic idiot screaming positive things at the top of his lungs, getting people jacked up. If I walked down that hill while you were coming up,
Mhm.
sweat pouring out of you, you're sucking wind like there's no tomorrow, and I say these words to you, Eric, go prove to Logan the man he has as a father. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to get up that hill.
You damn skipper you are. And I knew it. I know it. I saw your little boy. He's adorable. And if I said to you, go prove to Logan how great his father is. Go show your son how much of a warrior you have in your heart. You would have been up that thing in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's knowing your audience and knowing how to get to them. And I love doing that.
Yeah.
I love I had people that had posted stuff on the Facebook page and I was so grateful. So grateful. At the end of the day, you put your arm around somebody, they're struggling.
Yeah.
And that's not the time to get in their face. You put your arm around, you give them a hug. Hey, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. You did a great job. You got through it. And they'll say, well, it wasn't pretty. It didn't have to be pretty. You got through it. And that's a hell of a lot more than most people would do.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you go into your life looking to make a difference? I don't want mediocrity, bro. I am not one of conventional wisdom or wisdom in any way, shape, or form for that matter. And I don't care. I got to make a difference. I got to be different than other people. That's all there is to it.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good, bear, and different. Both barrels, baby.
Yeah. Well, it's just, it's interesting because you hit the nail on the head for me right there. Like, if obviously you wouldn't have said that to me last year because I didn't have my son yet, but
no, you were in the, he was in the process.
Yeah. He was stewing. Yeah. He was baking.
You know what I would have said? Hey, you know what? Go, you got a little one coming. Go tell him what you're capable of.
Yep. And the thing that's interesting is you're able to identify that for somebody else when maybe they can't think of that thing in that moment while they're in it. Right. Because if I was coming up that hill and you were able to identify that, right? I mean, you just said it right now, but it's not like you prepped for this interview thinking like, well, what would I say to Eric in that moment?
No,
it just comes to you. And
that's it.
I think sometimes as the individual who's in the seat, in the bike, and of course, our listeners, you can think about this in whatever way it works for you, is that sometimes it's hard to keep that front and center of why you're doing something, right? When things get difficult or trouble comes, sometimes it's easy to focus on the difficulty of the task rather than the motivation of why you're doing it, right?
Yeah. There were a couple of times where people would be a little floundering. You can see the posture on the bike. The head's down, the shoulders down. They're breathing so much through their mouth. You remember Danielle Casucci?
Yeah, cancer survivor.
Yeah.
But
I circled back on this one particular day, and again, I'm not trying. I really don't want to come across as arrogant and boastful, but in this instance, she was having a very tough time, and I knew it. You could see the posture on the bike. So I went back and I asked her how she was feeling, and she started to tell me she started to focus on the wrong thing. She was focusing on how she was feeling. And I said, you cannot focus on how you're feeling. Once you focus on that, all you're doing is bringing more of that to you. So I said, and I stopped her mid-sentence. I said, okay, change focus, because we're not going to focus on negative here. I said, give me your top 5 movies. And we went through it. And we probably rode about 12 miles together. The gentleman that she's dating, Larry, wonderful man, came up to me later on, a day or so later, and he said to me, you got her through those last few miles. I said, I didn't get her through anything. I said, the gas was in the tank. We just had to help her find it. But that sometimes if you just change your focus, don't focus on the negative. Whatever you focus on, you're bringing more of it to you. Focus on what you're good at. Focus on the positive. As far as the motivation for a landlord, I applaud you. I think that's wonderful that you would have that focus, because you're not settling for mediocrity. You're not looking for being a run of the mill. You're looking to be different, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, there's everything right with that. Focus on that. The fact of the matter is that you're going to do things differently to have those things that people will not have later on in life.
Mm-hmm.
And I applaud you. I applaud you. Don't be one of the masses, because the masses, they're lazy, they're smelly, they're stupid, they're ignorant, and I'll scrape them off my shoe like gum. Get lost. I want no part of you. And that's one of the reasons why I do Empire State Ride. We were surrounded by 140 like-minded people
Mm-hmm.
that basically stepped away from the comfort of their home, their loved ones, their bed, their couch at the end of the day. And they rode on average 80 miles a day to make life better for a person that arguably they'll never meet. Tell me how that's not heroic. Tell me how they're not making a difference, how they're not looking to change the world in which they live. Tell me how much of a minority those people are in. Now, my question is, do you want to be the guy on the sideline, or do you want to be the guy on the field getting it done? Tell me which one you want. Whatever you choose, you get. Which one do you want?
Oh, you're so.
Do you want to be a landlord? Do you want to say, listen, I am building a real estate portfolio with which I can retire. I am learning so much about humankind and how to navigate around a problem. Because here's the deal: you're either in a problem, going toward one, or just getting out of one. And yet, with all that, you willingly accept it because you're looking to make a difference in the lives of your family, in the lives of good tenants, provided you find them, and in the local economy,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to what? Leaving that property vacant? So tell me how you're not making a difference. And that's all it's about. It's about making a difference before we get out of here, before we go take a dirt nap and they throw me in a Tupperware bag and throw me in the hole. I'm not going quietly, and I'm not going anytime soon. So you better get used to me.
Oh. You know what I love about you, Mike, is
Nothing.
you can just put the button on something so well and just say something so eloquent, and then you finish it up with something about a dirt nap and a Tupperware box.
I said to my wife, don't spend the money on that. Put me in a Tupperware thing, burp the little corner, throw me in the hole, call it a day. It's a plastic box. I'm dead, for crying out loud.
Yeah,
what do you put me in a $4,000 box for?
I'm in the same.
Don't waste the money. Go have a party and celebrate my life. You know.
Yeah. So, Mike, you're talking, and I will back Mike up on this. That some people you come on the podcast because you have an agenda. You want to sell some books, or you want to get some on a course. I forgot that you even have books, and I still need to read them. How would somebody get a copy of your books, and what are they about?
No. That's
not
what this is about.
No, it is.
No.
At this point, I'm making it.
No,
about,
it's not.
I'm making it about that.
Well, I can hang up, and I'm not the guest anymore. It's on my terms. I'm
genuinely interested. So imagine that you and I are just having a conversation right now, and this isn't for the podcast.
Yeah, but we're not.
Yeah, but because I want to check out your books. How would I get a copy?
Okay, one of them is on Amazon.com, and it is called. If you go on Amazon.com, if you write "I am, I can, I will," and then my name, you'll see the book. And here's the beauty of the book.
I am
my son. I am, I can, I will. Okay, and if you write "I am, I can, I will," and then my name, Michael Sims, it'll show up, because there's a couple of things that if I am, I can, I will, you'll see different things. Here's the difference of the book, and this is what I'm enthusiastic about, is that you could read it, 5 other people could read it, and it's going to mean something completely different to each and every one of you. So the purpose of the book was to write it and leave an enormous amount of space on the pages for you to put down your own notes. So in theory, that book now just morphed into something completely different, because it's going to mean something different to you than it is maybe 5 other people. So you, for all intents and purposes, you just co-authored a book that now you can use as guidelines to keep you motivated, to keep you on track. It's 365 entries, obviously one per year, and every one of them is an argument in your favor of why you are not mediocre. You were not cast from a mass. You are different. You should own that difference. That difference is what's going to make the difference in your life, the lives of others, in the community around you. You sit down and you write it. You can actually read the book in less than 40 minutes.
Okay.
But if you do a page a day, contemplate that page a day, and then write down whatever notes that come to mind, whatever ideas that come to mind, you basically co-authored that book between you and I. And now that book means something very different to you. But there's a couple of entries. Let me see, because I still have on my computer, I still have it somewhere here. It'll take me a minute to find it.
Yeah.
But it might mean something different to you than it would to somebody else. And that's the beauty of it. It's not a cookie cutter. Here we go. Here, one of the entries, you create fear or you create great. And you create it all within your own mind. Now, what happens is you may read it and it may not say anything to you. But as the day goes on, it might resonate with you. Another one, your destiny is shaped by the words you speak. What did you just say? And I've heard people say, I can't do whatever. Your subconscious mind heard what? That you can't do it. The subconscious mind does not differentiate between truth and fiction. Whatever you tell it, it brings about the steps necessary to give it the very tangible value in your life.
Well, I think one of the most important conversations and dialogues you'll ever have in your life is your internal dialogue. It's that story that you're constantly repeating it to yourself.
It is the most, beyond the shadow of a doubt. Here's one that I love. If you feed your faith, your fears will starve to death. Well, here's my question. Why shouldn't you have everything in life that you want? Answer the question for me, please.
Right now?
Yeah. Why shouldn't you have everything that it is you want in life?
There's no reason you shouldn't.
Thank you. There isn't. Some people think that, well, in order for somebody to win, somebody has to lose, and that's not the case. Collaboration makes, Eric, for everybody to win. And clearly, when you have a bunch of different people that are throwing ideas around, all of a sudden let's say there's 4 people and they're discussing an idea. There's a fifth mind that comes about, and that's the energy that everybody generates with whatever it is they're contributing. And all of a sudden, I say something, and it triggers an idea in your mind. Oh, wait a minute, I didn't think of right. And what I said means something very differently to you as it did to somebody else. It may not resonate with somebody, but it resonated with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you will be successful or you will be a failure. You will either. You have the decision-making power here. Most people give up that power. Oh, I'm in the situation I'm in because life handed me something. No, you're in the situation you're in because you allowed life to kick you in the teeth and for you to stay down.
Yeah.
Hell no. I'm going to punch life in the face. You jerk off. You're going to give me what I want or I'm going to strangle you to death. And that's my opening offer.
Yeah.
You know, originals get hung on the wall for everybody to admire. The copies get sold at garage sales. You're an original, but most people give up their originality. Well, so-and-so is doing it this way, so that must be the right way. Well, so-and-so's a jackass. So-and-so's a meatbag. Why are you following his direction?
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't you following your own? So the book is really just to rattle your cage, to get you thinking differently, to get your mind opened to what you are capable of doing and what you should be doing.
Mike, speaking of that, your full-time living is selling houses.
For right now, yes.
When are you making the transition? Because I know that I've been on this earth for 32 years and there's very, very few people like you that I've come across where you're just like,
thankfully,
damn. Yeah. Well, no, it'd be exhausting if everybody was like you, but you're one of those people though, where you have that innate ability to know how to motivate people, and it's there. You know that you have this ability. I love it. When are you making that transition to? So, are you passionate about real estate the way that you're passionate about helping other people?
No. in order for you to be successful at any one thing, you have to concentrate on one thing.
Yeah.
I'm in the process right now of reinventing myself and making the transition from what I do as far as being a real estate broker to being a motivational speaker.
Yep.
Here's my motivation. Would I make more of a profound difference in somebody's life by selling them a house and putting them into a 30-year mortgage payment plan? Or would I be more successful in life getting into people's faces politely and positively, getting into people's hearts and helping them find their direction in life so that they can then create a positive vicious cycle and enjoy their life and be productive and be fruitful and be happy. And by doing that, giving people the example for them to do the same, you create a positive vicious cycle that way, don't you?
Yeah.
Like if Logan were to get up, and he's going to grow up too fast as it is already, and he's going to say, look what my dad did. Well, I need to follow my father's lead. I need to do that same thing. You start the positive vicious cycle as opposed to the negative one that so many people are in. I'd be infinitely happier having a conversation, having a cup of coffee and giving people that direction. In this instance of Stephanie, giving her the motivation to get to the top of that hill. And I guarantee you, as tired as that young lady was, physically she was exhausted. However, psychologically and emotionally, she's invincible. She is unstoppable.
Who do you think got more juice out of that situation? Stephanie, from what you said, or you from giving her that energy and that motivation?
I think I did. I did.
Yeah.
I got more out of it because I saw the effect it had. It was a positive effect. And I was happy that I had found the right words and the right timing to give her that last little, light the fuse and watch her go. And Eric, like a woman possessed, went up that hill. And for those of you who don't know, this hill is a little more than a half a mile long at probably a 14% grade.
Yeah.
And that's after a 91-mile bike ride in 90-plus degree temperatures. And yet she had the strength in her heart. Yeah. Yet she had the strength in her heart. She had it in her. I helped her find it. She had the strength in her heart to get to the end of that hill and get to the end of that hill with a vengeance. I thought you may want to stand back because that girl is jacked up right now. There wasn't a big enough cup of coffee to get her to that point. I was thrilled. I definitely got more out of that than she did.
That's cool.
Terry, who was the founder of the ride, had said, I don't know many people, if anybody, who's more passionate about some things than Michael is. I take that as a great compliment. I don't want to be mediocre. And I don't think any of your listeners should. I don't think they want to, or they wouldn't be listening to these podcasts to better their life. And I applaud them for it. Good for you. Good for you. And good for you for doing them. You're making a positive difference in people's lives. And it's a big deal. You're talking about their long-term income. You're talking about their wealth growth. You're doing the same thing, Eric. You're making a difference. You're looking to do what you can do to better somebody else's life. There is no better life lived than that which is looking to benefit other people. This isn't about putting your money in your pocket. This is about helping people. That ride isn't about a bike ride. It's about raising money for cancer research that somebody somewhere whom you will never meet is going to be told, you can go home now. You don't have cancer anymore. That's the change you're affecting. You follow me?
Oh yeah. 100%.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. You listen, my mom says I came into this world screaming. Well, you know me, and you know me a little more than a year now. I haven't shut up. I'm not going to shut up, and I'm not going quietly.
I love it. Mike.
Cool.
Thank you. Because,
for what?
Well, you know what it is?
You just fired up the machine and let it roll.
Yeah. And I knew that's all I'd have to do is just ask a few questions, and this podcast would take us in a direction. And I know that I would get, you evoke a lot of feeling and emotion out of people, and including me right now on this episode. And, I'm like, damn, I got to get up and do something. And
you already are.
Yeah.
Now do it better.
Yeah.
Now do it better. Reinvent every day. And for those of you, for your listeners who are having a problem with a potential issue with one of their properties, keep in mind too, you have a tremendous tool with, between your ears. Every puzzle comes with its own solution. If you look at everything and just say, okay, pick this thing apart, eventually it's going to reveal its solution to you. Come hell or high water, every one of them, every single one of them. It contains its own solution within it. You just have to stand there, look at it, take it apart, ask a lot of questions of you, think outside the box. Well, most people are doing A, then you shouldn't be doing A. You should be doing B, the 180 degree. If everybody's going one way, I'm pretty certain that's not the direction I want to go. And that's unconventional wisdom is what makes for the difference for people being different than others and creating so much more in life than the masses.
Yeah. Yeah. I read something online the other day that was talking about the fact that it was like, what are some conspiracies that you believe in? And somebody wrote, I believe that 80% of people are just 100% half-assing it and drifting through life. And when I read that, I was like,
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. And you were touching on that.
I absolutely agree.
95%.
Yeah, absolutely. And the beauty of it is when you look at it like that and you know in your heart of hearts that you're not in that 95%, how many more opportunities are available to you? If you start to look at it like that, you're starting to look at things differently, that people look at problems, you look at potential. Totally different aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you look at, that's a problem? Is it a problem or is it an opportunity for you to grow, to get beyond that problem and to go long and further than anybody else can go? Why wouldn't you think like that?
I love it. Mike,
cool.
I know you didn't come on this podcast to sell books. I know you're going to fight me on this. First off, you've made one sale. You've made one sale just while you're on the podcast. I've already ordered my
Eric,
book.
I'd send you a copy of it and I'd autograph it for you. And in the back, I would say to Logan, be grateful and be blessed that you're being raised by the man you are. And I don't say that idly. Believe me, I'm not that nice a guy. And you know that. If I think you're a real stick, I'll tell you, hey, buddy, you're a stick. Get away from me. Sorry. Eric, I don't pull punches. Cards on the table. I don't care. Somebody's like, oh, aren't you afraid of offending people? No, I'm not. Good, bad, or indifferent. I'm not. If you need help, I want to be the first person you call. If you're looking for somebody, to give you excuses, lose my number. Not interested. Yeah. Move on. You surround yourself by positive people. You surround yourself by potential and possibility, and it will come to you in droves. You have to look at it differently. Don't look at it the way the masses are looking at it. The opportunities are there, and they're usually hidden in problems.
I can't wait to share this episode with my wife. And that's not to say because I think she needs to hear it. It's so that she can connect the dots about who this Michael Sims character is that I tell her about.
Well, if I knew that, I would have curbed the language.
No. It's kind of actually something we think about with the podcast sometimes, because it's like, this is a tough thing that we come across with our business sometimes, because you want to put on that professional mask of like, we are a professional organization and we don't want to, deter people sometimes. At the same time, it's like, we're people, we're people who, Steve owns this business. I work for this business, and we're people. Like, we're dealing with the same issues that other people deal with. We deal with the same issues that businesses deal with. And frankly, I appreciate a podcast episode like this, where you get the opportunity to just talk to somebody who's raw emotion and just honest, and can tell you, if you're being a shit stick, I'll tell you you're shit, and it's so, I don't want to say refreshing, because that's not the word I'm looking for, but it's just honest.
Yes. Being called a shit stick is not refreshing. I assure you,
Yeah.
I hope there was value in it. I promise you my heart's in the right place. Sometimes my mouth is not, but, I tell people, whether you like me or not, you're going to get cards on the table.
Yep.
I'm not going to pull any punches. And if I offended you, it wasn't deliberate, but more often than not, it's to get you to think differently than the way you are, because the way you're thinking is not getting you what you want out of life. And that's a crime.
Yeah. I'm going to leave it right at that. I think this podcast has been beautiful. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate
Love you, buddy.
Very selfishly.
My pleasure.
I love you too, man.
All right. God bless, Eric. Continued success.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Be well. Bye-bye.